Kalau hmm,
How's everybody doing today on Zoom? Huh? Zoom, how you guys doing? I'm a pre up to me. Navdeep, Satinder, Satinder,
Good evening, Patrick.
anybody home? Can't hear you.
Good evening, Professor.
Hi. Hello.
Can you hear
Am
me?
I audible?
I hear you.
Hi. Good evening, Professor.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. All right, we're gonna get started, okay? 'Cause we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Mary, and then I know Nathan's not showing up for class today since he what's going on. All right. Oh, shoot. Come on. All right. Okay, so today we're going to talk about EEO, okay? And EEO basically stands for Equal Employment Opportunity, right? One of the things that HR manages is the EEO program or just the EEO of the company. And when we're talking about EEO, we're really referring to um, equality within the workforce, right? Making sure that everybody has the same chance as anybody else of getting the job or getting promoted or getting retained or whatever the case may be, right? And then they are discriminated against due to some protected class, right? Gender, sexual orientation, religion, creed, anything like that, right? Those are protected classes under CRA 64, Civil Rights Act 1964, Title 7, okay? Those are protected. So we want to make sure that the workplace is a objective place where people feel like they're getting a fair shake, right? That they're getting opportunities to grow and develop, and that no one is getting missed or treated, getting preferential treatment because they're in the same religion or they're in the same, from the same community. They happen to both be, Caucasian or African American or Asian American, whatever the case may be, right? We don't want that because that's going to create imbalance in the workplace. It's going to create jealousy. It's going to create animosity. It's going to create dysfunction within the workplace because people are going to be looking at each other in a sense that, oh, you're getting treated better than me because of whatever the case may be, right? So we want to protect against that, okay? It's unlawful, okay? And so what that really turns out to be is the company can get in trouble for doing those kind of practices, right? They can either be sued, the government can come in and sanction them, right? There's a couple of, they can shut them down. So there's a couple of things that the government can do, but really the EEO is here for the employee, just to make sure that, hey, if you feel like you've been discriminated against and you can't get anywhere with the management, the leadership within the company, you have an avenue or some recourse to come in and say, hey, I've been discriminated against. Nobody in the company is helping me. HR did such and such, but it didn't really help me. And I'm going to put in a formal complaint to the EEO, right? And then should be helping, right? Like I said, federal statutes enacted by Congress. And within, the EEO realm, we have EEO at the federal level, we have EEO at the state level, we have EEO at the city level, we have EEO at the local community level, right? So even here for San Diego, each city has its own EEO rep, okay? Chula Vista has one, Hillcrest has one, Kensington has one. They each have a rep, and then there's a San Diego city, and there's a San Diego County EEO rep, and then those people report to the California EEO representative, whoever that may be, and that person reports to the Department of Labor EEO representative, all right? So within, you got federal, state, and you got the courts, all right? And the courts are important, and the courts are really a source of last resort, because usually with the EEO, EEOC, I should say, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, they will rectify most issues, right? And aside from lawsuits. So their main concern is about mediation, arbitration, and resolving issues outside of the legal courts, right? Once the courts get involved, then it's out of the EEO hands at that point, and it just becomes more of a issue with the employee suing the company individually, personally, right? The EEO, when it comes to courts, they're really concerned about statutes and acts and laws at the federal level. That's when the courts get involved, enforcing those laws and those acts that Congress and the government have imposed or legislative body have put into effect. When it comes down to enforcing them, the courts are important, right? So if there's an issue, there's an EEO issue in the sense of, let's say, we had an issue with for overtime for salaried people, okay? And so President Obama enacted what we call the Lady Ledbetter Act, okay? And with one of the provisions within that act said, even if you're salaried, you rate overtime. So if an employer asks you to work more than 40 hours or more than 60 hours, you rate overtime, even if you're a salaried employee. Okay? Usually that wasn't the case. If you're salaried, you worked when you worked, right? And that was just the way it was, right? You could be at work 24 hours a day. That's just the way it was. What we came to find out is that people were getting burnt out, right? You can't ask somebody to work 80, 90 hours a week, right? Just because they're salaried. That's not fair, right? Because there's no repercussion. Because the hourly person, they get to 40, that's it. Because once they get past 40, time and a half, right? That becomes expensive for the company. Why would I pay somebody overtime when I could use a salaried person to do all the extra work, right? So they had to cut that out. So the Lady Ledbetter Act was put in effect and enforced in the courts at the highest levels and the federal level. And then it kind of trickled down to say, hey, this is a federal statute, not an act. We need to make sure that it's applied across the board at the federal, state, city, local level, so that everybody understands, like, even if you're salary, you still rate overtime as the employee, okay? It said, so EEOC, as I mentioned before, Equal Opportunity Commission, enforcing employment laws for employees, and then you have Department of Labor. That kind of is the governing body for everything, right? It's the U.S. federal governing body for labor, right? Anything that has to do with labor falls under the Department of Labor, right? Has to do with overtime, child labor laws, Family Medical Leave Act, anything at all falls under the Department of Labor. And unemployment rate, all that stuff is all Department of Labor, right? So they're the government body, and they basically are in the business of really just creating laws and regulations to make sure that the workplaces are fair and objective and a balanced place, right, for everyone. All right, so now let's try to get into some discrimination, right? The first thing we were going to talk about is disparate treatment, okay? And disparate treatment is what most people would consider or probably seen in the form of racism or prejudice, okay? It's when the prejudice or the racism or discrimination is targeted to one person, okay, one specific person. So if I was, as a professor, if I was, upset about something or discriminate against one of the students, one particular student about something, that'd be disparate treatment, okay? It's just one person, I'm targeting them based on whatever characteristics it is. I don't like their religion, or I'm discriminating because of their gender, whatever the case may be, right? But it's disparate treatment. It only affects that one person, right? Then you have disparate impact, okay? Disparate impact is different.
I just have a quick
Yes, go
question.
ahead.
So if someone files a complaint about someone that is discriminating them, who answers for that, the person or the company?
The company.
The company.
Yeah, the company. So if you have let's just say, depending on who it's with, right? Let's say it's not your boss. Let's say it's somebody else, right? The coworker. First thing, of course, you go tell your boss, like, hey, I got a problem. I feel like, this guy or person is discriminating against me because of my religion or my gender. And then it's your boss's job is to go talk to the other person, figure out what's happening, talk to you, of course, get all the details, and then kind of figure out, okay, hey, what's going on? Is it just a misperception, or is there something you really don't, are you really that way, right? Okay. If your boss doesn't do anything, then you go to HR. okay? You go to HR, HR should initiate some kind of investigation into the department and look at, okay, talk to you, talk to the other person, talk to your boss, maybe they'll talk to some other folks, right, and see what's going on. If HR doesn't do anything, then you would probably go to the EEOC.
But then if you go to that point, they're gonna ask like you to talk to
Right.
HR
they're
first,
gonna-
like they are not gonna take action if you just go straight to them, right?
No, no. They're gonna ask you, did you do anything else prior to coming to us? Like, yes, I talked to my boss. Yes, I talked to HR. That, you know, like everything getting pushed over, or whoever this person was, they didn't want to do anything and it just kept on doing it, or she kept on treating me in a certain way, right? Or I got passed with promotion, I think it's because of this or that, whatever the case may be. Yes, they will ask you all those things. And then if you did all those things and nothing happened, it's been over a certain period of time, you know, there's a time element to this, right? Did you give enough time to take action?
Mhm.
And if you did all that, then you go to EOC, yes, then EOC will step in and they will do a formal investigation, right? And that point, then whatever the EOC decides, right, they will tell the company like, hey, this is what we decided. There is a case here and we're going to, you know, rule on it and make a determination, right? Now, the thing with the EOC is that they're not going to give you any money or anything like that. They're going to make you whole. So basically what that means is that if you were supposed to get a promotion and they feel like you were discriminating and you didn't get the promotion because of it, you'll get the promotion, right? And they will backdate it. So when you were supposed to get it and give you all the money that you were supposed to get with the, you know, promotion and the increase in pay, if there was one, right? So they make you whole. They don't give you anything special or different or anything like that. Now, that may happen. You may say, you know what, that's not enough, right? And you may opt to say, you know what, EOC, I'm not satisfied with this particular thing. I'm going to go to what you call ADR, right? Alternate dispute resolution, or I'm going to sue, right? 9 times out of 10, before you can sue, you have to do ADR. You have to do some mediation arbitration with the company, because usually in the contract, if you sign, right? It says, hey, prior to you suing, you need to go to mediation arbitration. And then there, they can kind of control the narrative a little bit more and try to keep everything in-house, because they don't necessarily want it to go out of house because of the reputation and all that stuff in the company. So they'll go to mediation arbitration, and then with mediation is not binding, right? So basically what that means is like, if the mediation goes and the mediator says, okay, company A, you have to do this, and then you're gonna have to give Mariana this, and they may say, we don't like that. Or you may say, I don't like it, right? And you go, forget it, I'm gonna go sue. Okay. Arbitration is different. Arbitration is binding. That means whatever decision they come up with, both parties have to just stick with it. This is the way it is, right? And so with arbitration, usually it's a retired judge or some lawyer that specifically deals with those particular things. And so you'll go through that process. And if you can't, either one of those processes don't work, then you might end up suing. Like I did arbitration, I did mediation, I'm going to, you know, sue, right? And you get a lawyer and it's coming out your pocket, but they're suing the company, and then, you know, you probably get fired from the job at that point. Because now it's like, okay, she's suing the company, we gotta let her go. Doesn't make any sense. So that's the process in short. A little bit longer. These cases, if they go to court or they go to mediation arbitration, they tend to take a little bit of time, year and a half, depending on what's going on. The whole time, you're still working at the company, right? So you gotta kind of separate the people.
You cannot like quit the job.
You can quit the job, but it
The
doesn't necessarily,
company can fire you.
the company can't fire you.
Mm.
No, they can't fire you because it looks like retaliation. So they can't fire you. They just have to figure it out, like put you someplace, separate you and whoever it is that you're accusing of being the you know, the defendant. All right, and then they kind of the court run its course. Okay, good. Okay, good. All right. The next thing we have is disparate impact. All right, it's the same thing as disparate treatment. Is that disparate impact Now we're talking about it affecting a whole group of people, okay? Not just one person, all right? So this disparate impact has a wider influence or wider effect on a broader group of people. So for instance, if let's just say the CEO decides, I'm going to take all the toilets out of the bathroom, I'm gonna put urinals everywhere. And, be like, okay, whatever. Now, for men, that might be okay, sometimes. But for women, like women use a toilet to go use the bathroom, right? So through his actions, or through her actions, she basically discriminated against the women based on their gender without really knowing, right? Without not doing it on purpose, not intentionally, right? The thing with disparate impact is it have to be intentional. As long as the act is there, it was done, and it's having an impact on a large group of people, then it's considered disparate impact. And so you have to remedy that, okay? You can't, even if it's unintentional, you can't have it to where you're prejudiced or discriminating adversely against a group of people because of one particular characteristic, right? So the example I use it was your gender, right? You can have other situations where it's not gender, it's based on religion, right? Or like let's just say, everybody has to come to work on Saturdays. There's no flexibility, right? But some people celebrate their religion on Saturday, right? Celebrate the Sabbath on Saturday, or if it's Ramadan or something, or if it's Easter or some holiday, right? You're not supposed to do certain things after a certain time. Whatever. No, we're gonna plan it this way instead of respecting the people's religion. Then you have a problem. Okay? All right. All right. So in order to kind of combat some of the EEO things that the companies face, a few defenses, a few things that they can legally use that they are allowed to say, look, I'm discriminating or I'm being prejudicial in my action because it's one of these reasons, right? It's business necessity, bona fide occupational qualification, BFOQ, or burden of proof, okay? So when we talk about business necessity, we're saying as a company, like, hey, I need someone to do this. It's necessary for the operation of the business. Okay? It's necessary for operation. If they can't do this, then I can't hire them. If they can't do this, I can't keep them around. One of the things that they used to do as far as using this is what we call, with the business necessity, they would say, oh, yeah, it has to be a male because it's an all male environment. Okay? So it has to be a guy that takes the job. Like, why? Why can't a woman do the job? Why can't she be part of the organization? Because she's not a male? Like, that doesn't cut it, right? So business necessity is like the lowest level of defense, right? It's pretty much like it has to be really, really good business necessity for it to fly. Because normally it got shot down right away. It's just too weak, right? But it's a defense, right? The next one is BFOQ, right? Legitimate reason or employer can exclude personal or otherwise legal basis of consideration. So BFOQ really talks about a particular characteristic of the job that you need to have in order to qualify for the job. So let's just say, for instance, we had this case here in San Diego, like years back. And it was a young lady, and she went to go get a job at a strip club. And she walked in, she got the application, and on the application, it asks her, are you pregnant? Right? And she checked yes. And she turned the application in, and then she went back, and they were like, no, sorry, we're not gonna hire you. She's like, why? She said, because you're pregnant. And she's like, well, I'm not showing. I'm only like 2 weeks pregnant. She wasn't showing at all. And they were like, yeah, we understand that, but we don't, okay? We need you to not be pregnant. in order for you to be hired here at the strip club. And so she sued. Okay, she sued for discrimination, right? So she ended up losing the case. Right?
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Why do you think she lost the case?
Because it was affecting her health somehow, like doing their job while she's pregnant.
Yeah. I mean, don't think of it from her perspective. Think of it from the whole nation's perspective.
Because if they accept her and something goes wrong with the baby, is their responsibility?
Some like they don't care that much. They don't have that much compassion. They care, but not like that, right?
Don't know that.
From a business sense, right? Why do people go to the strip club?
Hmm.
Why? Why do people go to the strip club?
To party?
Party, yeah,
Yeah.
right? To party, to go look, right? So part of the whole thing about going to strip club is aesthetic, right? It's a look. You're looking, right? So it has to be visually appealing, right? 9 times out of 10, most men don't want to see a pregnant woman at a strip club.
Yeah.
Okay? So, although she's not showing right now, she will be showing eventually. All right?
But then the company can discriminate that?
Yeah, because it's a BFOQ. In order to be a stripper or a dancer, let me take that as a stripper, a dancer, you have to be visually appealing, right? A pregnant woman is not visually appealing at a strip club. No one's going to pay you to dance pregnant. From a business perspective, right? It's just normal people. No man's gonna pay a woman to dance on a pole and she's pregnant. It's just not sexy. It's not, and people come to the strip club for sexy. They come to see, a woman or a man, whatever it is, right? Physically appealing, right? Because that's the only thing you have is the aesthetics. You're just a visual thing, right? And so if it's not visually what we need or want in the organization, for the organization, we can't make any money, right? So you're basically there and you're not really making any money. So she got disqualified because they listed it as a DFOQ, appeal, right? You can't be pregnant and be appealing, really, in a strip club. Doesn't mean that a pregnant woman is not appealing, but that setting is not the setting that's going to be appropriate for a man to consider, female appealing for the most part, right? Most men, all right? And then burden of proof, you have to kind of show, right, that discrimination has happened. So it's on the employee to show, like, hey, they have discriminated against me. Okay, when you talk about burden of proof, like, you said we did it, tell us what we did. Okay? This is not the case when it comes to court. If you go to court, the burden of proof is on the company to show the court that they didn't do it. Right? But here, when you're just looking at EEO straight up, you have to show that they did discriminate against you. Right? However means that, comes about. And they also have to show that they didn't do it, but at the same time, the burden of proof is on you, not on them. Okay? So it's a little different. All right. So,
hard to prove these things.
yeah, it's very difficult.
Like it's about like
Yeah.
you're gonna show what videos, like there's
Yeah.
no
It's he say, she say, and unless they were doing it someone else, or it's been a pattern, you're just not the only person. That happened to the same person previously, or there's been complaints about it, then you can show a pattern. But aside from that, it's very, very difficult. Okay, so that's why the burden of proof, right? That's why a lot of people go to court, because the court, the burden of proof is on the company. Just through the EOC process, the burden of proof is on you as the employee to show that you've been employed. Okay. Come on in. Hey, what's up? So then you have retaliation, right? And so, as we were talking about before, right? Companies cannot retaliate. You can't, as a company, be mad because an employee is saying something happened to them and then mistreat them or do something to them that's adverse, such as take away some kind of, their promotion or take away some benefit they have or start making them do things that they normally wouldn't do or not in the job description or giving them all the bad assignments and stuff like that, okay? You cannot retaliate against employees, okay? If you do, you pretty much are in big trouble as a company, and this is more problem for you. Then you kind of showing or demonstrating like you might be guilty of what it is you're being accused of, right, as a company, right? So retaliation is not something that you really want to get into, okay? As a company, that's why it's important that you separate the two people, the body, so that, they're kind of like, okay, there's really no ability to retaliate, especially if it's just employee to employee, coworker to coworker, sort of. If it's your boss that you're accusing or somebody higher up, then there's more likely sort of a chance of retaliation. But even then, you try to separate and make sure that doesn't happen. All right. Okay, so this brings us to CRA 1964, okay, Title 7. This is where, we really get into the Civil Rights Act and start to look at, the laws and regulations that protect people in certain classes, okay? The first Civil Rights Act that we had was really in 1863, right? That was the first version of our Civil Rights Act. But at that point, although slaves were free, right, they were still not considered a whole person. They weren't considered a man or a woman, right? So if you weren't white, then Civil Rights Act of 1863 didn't apply to you because you weren't considered a person. You were considered 1/8 of a person as a African American, as a specifically African American, but as anything but white, you are not considered a person as far as protection under the Constitution.
That's funny. 1/8 of a person.
1/8 of a person, yes, I know, it's crazy, right? Stuff they come up with.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, well, that's because it's United States. Yeah, United States is, yeah. The slavery background and the slavery history is very, very sad. Right? Come in. That's the one I'm gonna go? I know. Was that upstairs? Okay, oh, that's there. So, 1964, Title 7, this is where, you see all the black and white movie reels, Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, all those guys, Kennedy, right? President Kennedy got assassinated right before he was gonna sign this, okay? And so Lyndon B. Johnson, the vice president who became president, he signed it into law, okay? Because he knew Kennedy really wanted to make sure that the Civil Rights Act was put into place because Kennedy understood the importance of having a fair playing field for such a diverse country, right? The United States is extremely diverse. There are people from everywhere, right? And so you have to accommodate for all those folks, right? You just can't, it can't be like Japan or China or, even the Middle East, right? Or even, some parts of Latin America where it's very homogeneous, right? It just, you look around and people pretty much look the same, right? Because they're the same culture. United States, that's not the case, no. United States, you go around and see 10 different people, right? It's like a rainbow, right? So you have to make sure that people feel like they're getting treated fairly, right? And so right now, there's more than these since, we had, what you would call it, Civil Rights Act, 1993, and we had a few other amendments, right? Bill Clinton and all that stuff, but we'll start with 64, Title 7, right? So we got sex, race, national origin, color, and or religion, okay? And so nowadays we have, what you would call it, sexual orientation, right? We have, you can't discriminate against people's hair, right? The way my hair is now twisted 10, 15 years ago, people would be like, oh, you can't come to work, because your hair doesn't fit the way we want it to fit, right? They would discriminate against you, okay? Your name, if they could tell that it wasn't, they could tell if it was a minority name or wasn't something white, they would discriminate against you, okay? If they felt like, especially after 9/11, didn't matter what Muslim country you're from, what Middle Eastern country you're from, they were discriminating against you, okay? If you even say, or sound like you speak Spanish, or speak Spanish, Portuguese, anything like that, they discriminate against you, right? Depending on where you're at, right? Because they feel like, oh, you're Mexican, right? Not really understand, like, okay, not everybody that speaks Spanish is Mexican, right, per se, okay? There's Spaniards, there's Caribbean, there's a lot of other people in the country that speak Spanish. And just because you speak Spanish doesn't necessarily mean you are necessarily Latino or Hispanic in nature, right? Okay, so for Title VII to be applicable, right, the first thing is the company has to have at least 15 employees, okay? 15 or more employees. If it doesn't have 15 or more employees, then it's not that it's not a company. You just took it all the way. It's not a company. It's not that it's not a company. It's just that they don't fall under the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And so it's not that they don't have to adhere to the rule. It's just that as far as recourse, you can go straight and just sue them, right? And the notion is that because it's such a small company, you should have a better rapport or relationship with the management, with the leadership, right? It's 15 people or it's 14 people. You probably know everybody. Right, it's probably a family environment, it's close knit. So if you have any issues, you guys can resolve them, amongst each other, right? 15 or more, then we realize, okay, you might not know everybody, it might be a little tougher. So guess what? We're gonna put these rules in place, right? It applies to all educational institutions, public and private. Okay? CMU fall in the same category as UCSD, SDSU, UC San Marcos, doesn't matter.
All fall in the same category.
All fall in the same category. They all fall under Title VII. Okay? Doesn't matter, right? So this is where, when it comes to the schools and stuff, where we had a big issue with affirmative action. All right? And people being upset about affirmative action has been around for a long time. But you guys familiar with affirmative action at all? No? Okay. So affirmative action was a policy that was put in place, I can't remember exactly, probably in the 80s somewhere, right? And so the purpose of affirmative action is really just to level out the playing field, right? Is to try to make up for some of the things that were done wrongly or unjustly to minorities back in the day, right? So for instance, if there was a job to be had and there was a white man and a black man, the white man would get the job. Even if the black man was more qualified, was better for the job, the white man would get the job because he was white and we're not letting any blacks come, right? And so because of that, that limited the economic opportunity that the black community had, right? That the Asian community had, that the Spanish community had, right? That the Middle Eastern community had, right? And so because of that, they put affirmative action in. And that way, what we're gonna say is, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna level out the playing field, okay? Affirmative action is not a mandate, okay? It's a policy, it's a recommendation, it's suggestion. It's not a you have to, right? Affirmative action is, hey, we would like you to behave in this way, right? In order for you to be fair to all the people that are applying to the job, right? So if, like in school admission, really, that's where, right? If all of us applied to Harvard, okay? And Harvard denied all of us, right? But then there was another person who happened to be Caucasian. They got into Harvard, right? But their grades weren't as good as ours. Their record wasn't as good as ours, right? What affirmative action does is says, hey, we know that, your grades are maybe about the same as his, or maybe a little less, or maybe better, right? but we are going to make sure that we allocate a certain amount of the quota admission to making sure we get minorities in there. Okay? And so if you meet the minimum requirements, you're going to get accepted into Harvard. Okay? Because we're trying to balance it out, right? If you went to Harvard 20 years ago, 85 to 90% of the students were white. The other 10 to 15 were probably Asian. Okay? A few others sprinkled here and there, but for the most part, it's predominantly white school. This is across the board. Most universities and colleges were more predominantly white, okay? Affirmative action kicked in, and so that gave people from underprivileged communities the opportunity to meet the guidelines, right, and get accepted. So the misconception about affirmative action is that it's a lowering of the standards. It's not. We're not lowering the standards to let people in. We're just saying, like, look, if they meet the minimum standards, let them in. Because you discriminated against them in the past when they did meet the standards and exceeded the standard, you still didn't let them in, right? So now if they meet the standards, you should let them in. You should accept them, right? And so this works, it worked for a while, right? They had it for a while. And so a certain amount of the incoming class for most schools had a certain amount of minorities in it, right? And when we talk about minorities, we're just not talking about skin color. I'm not talking about race, I'm talking about gender, I'm talking about religion, I'm talking about, economic, social class, right? We're just not talking about skin tone here, right? Because historically, right, if you look at all the Ivy Leagues and some of the bigger schools, the people going to those schools, sometimes their parents went to the school, they have money, they're contributing to the school, donation, booster, their parents or somebody doing something, right? So that connection, right? Us as minority, most of us, are first generation. You guys are probably first generation to get to do school here, maybe in the United States, right? I'm first generation, and my parents are Caribbean, so I'm first generation here. Okay, my parents didn't have any money when they came in, no money. They just like all the other immigrants. Okay, and so what were they gonna do for me? Nothing. There's nothing they can do for me, right? I had to go out and get it myself, right? Affirmative action helped in some ways, but I had to go out and meet the bar, right? I had to meet the requirements, right? They didn't lower the requirements. They didn't say, oh, Dr. Case, you got a C. We'll let you in anyway because you're black. No. Dr. Case, we'll let you in. You met the minimum required. You got an A GPA, got a 4.0 GPA, da-da-da. Okay, cool. Come on in. We'll let you in because you meet the requirements. If you don't meet the requirements, you don't meet the requirements, right? That's just the end of the day, right? It doesn't matter. And we left it to the schools and businesses to operate in that way. So they say, look, we're not going to make this a law. This is guidance, okay? Until you break the law, right? Until you have discriminatory practices that we see that you're doing, then we're going to come and say, okay, now we're going to make you do an affirmative action plan, okay? We're going to give it to you, and guess what else we're going to do? We're going to have somebody there on site, and their only job is to watch you, to make sure you're doing what we told you to do, okay? We look over the mention numbers, we look at over everything, make sure it's good to go. What are you doing, all right? That's if you violate the EEOC, right? That's if you violate Title VII, okay? You start showing the pattern of discriminating against the protected classes, all right? So affirmative action kicks in then as a mandatory thing, all right? But it's a plan that's implemented. So affirmative action is not mandatory, all right? So that's why they took it away this year. This year they took affirmative action away, right? A lot of people had a problem with that, saying that we still need it because there's still discrimination and prejudice in basically everything that we do in this world, right? As far as the United States goes. But on the other hand, we've come such a long way from where we were that people feel like, oh, we don't need it anymore, right? But that's not necessarily the case, especially now because I feel like we got more globalized, right? And we have more people kind of interacting with each other who are different, right? Even more so you want some affirmative action or something in place that says, hey, look, give people a chance, although you don't know them, although they're different from you, although they come from different culture, give them a shot, right? Don't judge them based on their religion or whatever the case may be, right? As you can tell, this is a very hotly debated topic, right? Even in the sense of now when you look at the Israel-Hamas situation, right? Or Israel-Palestinian situation, right? And you think about, I don't know if you guys are paying attention. I know you guys are paying attention, but the other stuff, periphery stuff, right? All right. So when it first happened, I remember there was a group of students from University of Pennsylvania, and they protested, and they were Palestinian. And they said Israel did this, Israel was wrong, Israel was the devil, every da da da. And they had all these big business guys come down and say, hey, who are those students? We want the names of those students that were saying bad things about Israel because we want to make sure we don't hire them. We want to make sure that we make sure they don't graduate. Okay? Because what they're saying is wrong. What they're saying is not right. What they're saying is just terrorism. Right? So University of Pennsylvania was like, we can't do that. They're students. First thing. Secondly, this is a school. That's the whole point of coming to school, to be an academic institution. So you can protest. So you can say what you need to say without worrying about somebody coming to kill you. Right? Just because you don't agree doesn't mean you have the right to kill me. Okay? Just because you don't agree with them doesn't mean you have the right to kill their future, their students, their scholars, their thinking, right? They're being affected in a certain way, and so you can't dismiss that, okay? And so it's kind of where you see the influence, right, of certain groups within our ecosystem, right? Now imagine if we didn't have rules and laws in place, and those guys were like, hey, give me the names of those people. And they went, they got the names. Imagine what would have happened. They probably would have went to people's houses, grabbed those kids and killed them. Okay? That's how serious, this thing is, right? Between Israel and Palestine, right? It's on that level where people are even here are killing each other and are not talking to other people or having, confrontation with people because they believe, Palestinians, they're like, no, we're right. Israelis, they're right, right? No one wants to talk. Okay? And so you gotta have things in place to make sure that people don't get discriminated against because of their religion. All right? That you just don't. If I had to wear a head guard, right? Do I want people discriminating against me because I'm wearing a religious, head dressing? Or because I need to pray 7 times, or 5 times a day, or if I have to go to church on Saturday, or I have to fast, or whatever the case may be, right? Should I be discriminated against because of that? No, right? I shouldn't, right? But this is what's happened in the United States history. Now, it's not that it doesn't happen other places, because it does, but it's different because those other places, people tend to look the same and be the same. Usually, what the difference is, or the problem is usually something to do more personal, difference appearing with like more closer knit like dispute. Like sometimes you have problems with your family, right? You may not get along with your brother or something, right? It's some other stuff, right? It's more personal, it's more intimate. It's not necessarily like um, any anything that someone else can control per se. Okay, and so you want to make sure that people don't get discriminated against because of something that first thing you have no control over, right? We just kind of came out and we are who we are, right? And you don't want to discriminate against people because of that. Right? You don't want to lose out on talent because of that. Right? And that's what tends to happen is that you tend to lose out on time because if everyone's the same, it doesn't really generate a lot of ideas. Innovation doesn't really It happens, but it happens better when it's more diverse. Because we each have different backgrounds, right? We each have different stories, different places where we came from that we can contribute to each other, right? I grew up in New York. It's different from how you guys grew up, I'm sure. Okay? Totally different. Like some of my students, some of you guys don't know anything but war. Always civil war in your country. Always something going on. Always, some political thing. Always 10 different presidents. Always some corruption. United States, it's not like that, the government wise, right? But on the streets, it's different, the way I grew up, it's not the same, okay? And so without opportunities, I probably wouldn't be here, probably someplace else, okay? Because my environment was very, very rough. My environment was very, very fast. It was very, like, criminal, okay? Not that I easily got souped up in that. No, that has nothing to do with my parents and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, when you look at it, my parents can do whatever as much as they can, but I have to have opportunities, just like everybody else, right? And so you want the same opportunities, right, as everyone else. So this is what these laws are in place for. Okay. So educational institutions, state, local governments, public and private employment agencies. All right. And this is probably one that people kind of don't really pay attention to, right? If I'm an agency and my business to hire people for other people, right? I have to make sure that I don't discriminate, right? If I'm a hiring or a headhunter, right, or a company that finds personnel for other companies, right? They have third party companies that do this, right? You go and say, hey, look, I'm looking for a doctor. Okay, and I don't have time to go look for a doctor as as the employer, excuse me. So I tell the third party company A, hey, company, I need a cardiologist that does this, and this. They go, no problem, we'll find one, right? And they go wherever they can find one. Say, hey, we found one. They wanted to relocate, or they here in San Diego. Here they go. Okay, you pay us the fee. Move on. You got your doctor, whatever the case may be. Okay, those companies cannot discriminate. Okay, they also fall under Title VII. Okay, protected classes, because they need to be able to reach out to anyone without discriminating because of color, creed, whatever the case may be. Because what you end up doing is, again, you end up cutting out resources. Now, I remember last week, no, the week before, no, last week, I think. So I was talking about the Midwest and how the Midwest had a shortage of doctors in the rural areas. Okay. And so the way they remedied that was by extending visas to doctors from India, doctors from Malaysia, doctors from Cambodia, doctors from Iran, right? All these other countries, right? And they're giving them visas to come to South Dakota, to come to North Dakota, to come to Wyoming, to all these little towns, right? That are so far away from everything, right? Because everybody wants to live in a city. Everybody wants to be close to stuff, right? So the rural places don't necessarily have all the resources that they necessarily need. Sometimes they have to drive hours away to go see a doctor, right? Nobody wants to be driving hours, to go see a doctor. What if, you have issues and you have to go to a doctor every week? I don't want to drive 2-3 hours every week one way to go see a doctor, right? And so they outsource all these doctors and brought them in from these different countries. Now, if they were discriminatory in practice, they would not have access to these doctors. They would have no doctors because they were just stuck on, hey, the doctor has to be white, the doctor has to be black, or the doctor has to be Hispanic, right? You're not going to get those things, right? Because you're cutting off your resources, you're cutting off your pool of candidates that are eligible and highly qualified to do the job, right? So we don't want that, okay? Labor unions with 15 or more members, and then joint labor management committees for apprenticeship and training. Labor unions, unions used to be really big back in the day, okay? And then somewhere in the late 60s, early 70s, unions started to die out, right? So there's a few industries that have stuck with their union and pretty tight with their union, right? So for instance, we have the strike going on now with the actors and the writers. Are you guys familiar with that? you know, that's a union, okay? The Screen Actors Guild, right? They're up on the Screen Actors Guild, we're on the SAG, right? So they went on strike,
It's been a while already.
right? Yeah, it's been a while, right? So they settled on the writer's side, but they haven't settled on the actor's side. So the writers have come to some agreement as far as like what they want and all this stuff. The actors are still working on something, right? But those are unions, okay? And it's 15 or more members, so they fall under Title VII, okay? They're not just being discriminating. And Hollywood is notorious for discriminating against women, okay? Of taking advantage of women, right? Yes. They get less pay, right? Less pay, same role. Sometimes they're the lead role, and they still don't make the money, right? They have to go through different things when they're auditioning, right? Sometimes they used to have to do favors, right? For you want this part, you have to do some favors for me, right? Okay, those are all illegal. That's just not how we want to do business, right? And you see how they put people in prison, right? Harvey Weinstein, prison, okay? Who else? There's a couple people, James Franco, right? I don't know if you're familiar with James Franco. Well, James Franco is. He's been in a lot of stuff.
Oh, I
He was in Pineapple Express with
Criminals?
I know James Franco.
James Franco, yeah, he was teaching the class at NYU.
Yeah, I know him. What he did? He was in Spider-Man.
Yeah, he was Spider-Man, yeah, he was Spider-Man, yep. So James Franco got in trouble because discriminatory is because of
No, he
No,
was like
he was-
the villain.
he was the one, the
best
villain,
friend.
yeah. He was the best friend. But he's been in a whole bunch of movies, right? He's in trouble. He was in trouble, right? Because they found out that he was taking advantage of the students, sort of, right? He was teaching a course at NYU, and it's it's really hard. He's James Franco, right? He's teaching the class. You got a bunch of students in there, a bunch of women, and he's taking advantage of that. Like he's like, hey, I'm James Franco, but they're coming on to him too, right? The proper thing to do is like, nah, that's not the proper relationship. I'm the instructor, you're a student in the class, I'm just here to teach you, right? There's a million other women in the world, okay? Leave these alone, okay? It's okay, you can leave them alone, right? If you're especially in New York, there's a bunch of women in New York, okay? You don't have to mess with these, right? Why you gotta mess with these? You just can't tell them no, okay? So if they just found out that he was just taking advantage of them, right? And so he got in trouble for that, okay? A lot of Hollywood guys have been getting in trouble for some of the stuff they did back in the day, some behavior and some of the, misogynistic action.
Most of the time, women don't want to come forward because it's gonna be one word against
Yeah.
the other
Okay,
word.
yeah.
So there are a lot of people that are still there doing stuff and
Yeah.
they're not gonna.
Even the President Trump, he got in trouble for that, right? He went to court because he raped a woman 30 years ago. She said he raped her 30 years ago. And they went to court, and guess what? She won. Yeah, she won. Yep. She won. Okay. So there's with the Me Too movement that came along, right? Women started speaking up and understanding that, hey, you don't have to take this, right? You don't have to be discriminated. You don't have to get treated in this kind of way because you're a woman. Okay, it doesn't work that way. And eventually, as things move on, as time goes on, things are going to change because the demographic is changing, all right? The age of the people that are in charge is changing. Right now, there's a lot of baby boomers in charge, all right? People that were born in the 40s, 30s, 40s, right? But they're dying, right? They're in the 80s. My dad is 40. My dad's born 1941. He's 82, right? He's getting old, God bless, God willing. He'll live till he's 100, right? But he's a good guy, okay? But he's also not in charge of anything. So, yeah, he's not in charge. He can't even tell my mother what to do. So it doesn't matter, right? So, but those people, when they start dying off, the next group of leaders are gonna be Gen
Generation X.
Gen X, which is,
Uh-huh.
no, not Gen X,
You know those things.
no, Gen X, Gen X.
Is it?
Yeah, Gen
I
X.
believe so, yeah.
I'm Gen X.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm Gen X, all right? So people, yeah, you
We-
guys are Y.
Why?
You guys are
Are
millennials.
we? Millennials, we're no.
You guys are millennials. You guys in your 30s?
No.
Yeah.
20s.
Close?
20?
We're 20s, yeah.
You're 20.
Oh no, so you're right. You're Y. No, you're Z. Yeah.
Where is it?
Yeah, if you're under 30, yeah,
Look it up.
if you're under 30, you're Z.
Are we?
We're Z.
Yeah, you guys are Z, right? And so
Millennials.
yeah, you guys are Z. So as the generations start to move up, right, and those who become those people in power, right, the attitude change because my attitude as a Gen Z guy, not a Gen X guy, is different than a baby boomer guy, right? I'm more open, not to say that we don't have people with the same mentality, but it's just different, right? I don't fit the demographic of a baby boomer anymore, right? Baby boomers are people that were in charge. They were white males, right? Doing things for other white males and just the white race, okay? Now Gen X, a little different, right? We had a little more diversity. We're the one that kind of came up in that whole, civil rights age, right? The civil rights time. So we think differently, right? Generation Y, millennials, you guys think totally different, okay? Where it's like, hey, I don't care about anybody's skin color, as long as you can do the job and I'm good. I don't care. I don't care about your religion, I don't care. And then Gen Z, forget about it, they don't care about nothing, okay? Gen Z, they don't even wanna work.
They're even changing pronouns.
They're even changing pronouns, right? Exactly, they got pronouns now, right? And no more he, she, it's they, their, I, and they, ZQ, right? There's a bunch of stuff, right? And so as those people change, right, as the leaders change, so does the mindset of the whole nation change, right? We would never talk about sexual orientation when I was growing up, or you would never see anything on TV that would promote homosexuality and it being a good thing and people making money and being famous, or that it be a thing, right? It's almost like if you want to be cool, you gotta be gay. Okay, sort of nowadays. Okay, you want to if you're gay, it's cool. It's all right. Yeah, if you're straight, it's like you're contaminating the world. If you're gay, you're cool. Okay, you're classy. You got style. You got money. You're open-minded. That kind of thing, right? Not really. Okay. The point is that we can have the conversation, and it's no longer a thing. Okay, no longer people getting beat up. When I was growing up, if somebody was going to be gay, they would get beat up. People would physically go find them and go.
I mean, it still happens.
It's still happening.
Less.
Less and less, right? And there's more recognition. Like you could never be married back in the day, right? Now you can be
In
married.
Brazil, they had open marriage for gay people, and now they
Stopped it.
they stopped.
Yeah. That's because
Unbelievable.
it's the leaders, right? It's the leaders and how they think about things, right? You conservative, liberal, in the middle, right? It's depending, if you're in certain country, according to according to the Iranian president and prime minister, they don't have any gay people in Iran. No such thing as gay people in Iran, okay? According to them.
Yeah.
We all know they have it.
Not announced.
Yeah. But for them, they because they don't respect it, they don't acknowledge it, they don't think it's a thing. We don't have any gay people here, okay? We have people that have problems, that have a disease, and we're gonna find them, we're gonna beat them up and kill them. Okay? Same thing in Africa.
Do they kill them?
I don't know. I don't know what they do now, but the mindset is that they're not equal. They're 1/8 of a person.
Yeah, they will not be accepted in
Right, they won't be accepted in the community, right? But United States, that's not how we roll, right? Europe, that's not how we roll, okay? Mexico, that's not how they roll. But most countries, not most, but a lot of countries now, like, it is what it is, okay? As long as you're not a criminal, you're not a terrorist, you live your life, okay? We still gonna have people, right? We still have people, we still have thoughts, right? Abortion rights and all that stuff, there's a fight about that, you know. There's always gonna be that fight, right? There's always gonna be people that have contrast and views. The point is that you want to be able to have the opportunity to voice your opinion without repercussion. It's okay if we don't agree. That's the whole point, right? We're probably gonna get a better product or better outcome if we sit down and we talk and figure out, okay, what do we have in common first? And then, okay, we'll do all these things. Let's put these aside. What don't we agree on? This, okay, how can we come to a compromise that's gonna work for everybody, right? And so sometimes you have a period of time where one group or one ruling party, they're in charge and things kind of go their way, right? Then you have another time where another party's in charge and things kind of go their way, right? You try to strike a balance because you can't make everyone happy. It's not gonna happen, right? Globally, nationally, locally, it's not gonna happen, okay? All right. So, as I said, Civil Rights Act 1991, right? So we're from 64 to 91. And so within 91, we had some other things that were put into place, right? And so requires employees to show that employment practice is job related for the position and consistent with business necessity, and creates provision to claim compensatory and punitive damage for the business of intentional discrimination. Right? So basically, what was happening is that companies were using business necessity as a way to discriminate against giving someone the job, right? But if the particular thing you were saying was a business necessity, if it has nothing to do with the job, then you can't use it as business necessity. Okay? It has to connect. If you say, well, she has to lift 40 pounds, yeah, but she's an admin person. When is she gonna be lifting 40 pounds? Like when exactly when she's typing or when she's doing her reports or when she's running meetings, when is she lifting 40 pounds exactly? That's for somebody that's on the floor, that's in manufacturing, that's in operations, that's, you know, working in a warehouse or something. I understand that, but she works in the office. She's lifting 40 pounds when? So it doesn't apply, right? So the business fee has to apply. The other one is, when you have, a discrimination issue, you have to make sure that the person can be compensated, right? If they happen to, go through a lawsuit, okay? That there's punitive and compensatory, damages awarded, okay? And so to make sure that, hey, if you discriminate against me and we go to court and I sue you, and we go to court, that I have an ability to make money from you or to get compensated adequately based on what it is you did to me, right? So this is where you get into, emotional distress, right? So a judge will say, okay, they get $100,000, because you discriminate against them for promotion, you're guilty. And so between that time and now, they basically lost out $100,000 from promotion and the pay raise. So you pay them $100,000. But I'm also going to award them $1 million for emotional distress. I'm also going to award them lawyer fees, right? So you have to pay for their lawyer, right, and all their fees, in addition to yours too. You lost, so you got that. The job has to pay for it. Your lawyer fees, their lawyer fees, that compensate you $100,000, and they have to give you money for emotional distress, right? And that could be any amount, right, up to a certain figure, whatever makes sense. You leave it up to a jury or leave it up to a judge, they decide, right? It could be millions, it could be 2 million, it could be 3 million, it could be whatever, okay? But you have the ability to get that money, okay? All right, so we talked about affirmative action already, okay? And so we just want to make sure that the playing field is level, right? That everybody has an opportunity to get in and have these has a chance to really take advantage of the opportunities, right? And don't get pushed off, even if they're qualified, they don't get discriminated against because of their particular characteristic. Okay, that's not gonna apply. And so, like I said before, it's just guidance. It's not a law. It's not an act. right? It's not mandatory. It's just, hey, we want you to behave in this way. It's a policy, okay? And so, depending on, how the school is going, because you can't, what's one reason, excuse me, you think that it's not mandatory? Why do you think affirmative action isn't mandatory? Why would I not want to say, hey, you have to pick somebody, you have to pick a woman, or you have to pick so many women, or so many men, or so many, African Americans, or,
It's the nature of the job itself.
okay, right? Anything else?
I think that if you mandate that you have to choose that kind of person, you're discriminating also.
Sort of discriminating, right? You discriminate against the other people, right? Kind of like reverse discrimination, sort of, right? So, well, not really, that's not reverse discrimination, but you are discriminating against the other people. The other thing is that the thing that you're asking me to do, I might not be able to do it because there's no such thing. So what I mean by that is saying like, okay, if I have affirmative action and it's mandatory, and they say, we want you to hire a Jordanian who's also a Muslim who speaks Farsi, speaks English, and also does this type of math, and also does this, right? And they have to be born in the United States. Do you know anybody like that?
No.
No. And then you'll never find that person, right? And so you pretty much, you box the company in a corner. There's no way I can do that, right? There's no way I can find that person, right? I remember in the Marine Corps, when I was in the military, we used to have this thing called the unicorn, okay? And the unicorn, if you could find somebody that was a unicorn, that was like a miracle, right? And the unicorn was a black female who played a musical instrument, that was physically in shape, who wanted to join the Marines. That was a unicorn. If you could find that woman, that one black female who played an instrument and was in shape and wanted to join the Marine Corps, you didn't have to work again. They would promote you. It was like, oh my God, you found one? Sign up. She's gone. She went to boot camp. Oh my goodness.
That's
Great
how
job.
women look for men.
Yeah.
I want these and these and these.
Right, yeah, exactly right. Yep, same thing that women do. You gotta be 6 feet tall, you gotta have a good job, you gotta be romantic, you gotta, rub my feet, cook me dinner, take me out. My mother has to like them, my dad has to like them.
Very dramatic.
Yeah, dramatic. You have to listen to everything I say.
And rich.
And rich.
I'm not gonna, that's why they're not gonna find no one.
And he has to let me use all the closet space.
Uh,
And the closet for my shoes and stuff like that, okay? And he has to tell me I'm beautiful every day. All right?
If you found the unicorn, come to me.
Yeah.
Sign.
If you find that unicorn, you go ahead and jump on it, right? But we had those, what we call the unicorn. That was the Marine Corps unicorn, right? Other companies have the same unicorn. Those people are very, very difficult to find, right? It's not that they don't exist, they do.
Yeah.
But all 4 criteria, no. There's plenty of black female musicians.
There is also a problem that like companies are like, oh, I want someone to fill out a position as a junior, but then I want the experience of a senior, and
Right.
I'm gonna pay
I'll
as
pay
a
them a due.
junior.
Yep, yep.
And then people they're like looking for opportunities, they don't have an experience,
Mhm.
and then they want to like get a job. It's so hard because you have to meet all these criteria,
Mhm.
and
You
and
can't.
then you can't because you just like graduate or
Yeah,
something.
you just came out of school. What do you get? You don't know anything, right? Just
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I'm just trying to find a job. Okay, I went to school and.
What is your experience?
Nothing.
None.
About yourself.
Yeah, what do you want from me? Right? So yeah, that's basically how it goes. What time is it?
It's the break time.
It's the break time? Yeah, it's the break time. Okay, take 10 minutes, come back at 7, and then we'll continue, okay? Taking a 10-minute break, Zoom.
Yes, I got some.
But you cannot get it because you didn't dress up.
Yeah.
Mary checking on the candy. She's the candy, candy boss.
Administrator.
She's the candy administrator, yep. If it's the fourth time forward, if you go to the menu, so they see you in the door. For you and then the door is open. Kind of nothing else. Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. Come on now. All right, so we're talking about affirmative action, okay? As I said before, affirmative action is just a plan, right? It's a program. It's not mandated, for companies to, particularly participate in affirmative action practices. It's just based on looking at the company demographic, looking at, the community that they're, established in, and trying to figure out, does the company look like it's the community that they're in, right? And so in order to balance out the playing field, to make sure that the people within that community can get a job at that company, right? It doesn't make any sense if if I have a Mercedes plant in the middle of San Diego, and I go into the plant and there's nobody that works for the company actually lives in that area, right? Everybody lives in, Rancho Penasquitos, they live in, Orange County, they live in other, Coronado, but nobody lives around in that area at all. Then we have a problem, right? Because we want companies to resemble the community that they're in, right? Because then that shows that they're giving back, that the community appreciates them being there because they're doing community outreach, they're community awareness, they're doing other things for the community. Right. All right. All right. So here we're talking about some sex, gender discrimination laws, right? We have the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, basically, specifically for women, of course, right? Because men don't get pregnant. All right. Thank goodness. Okay?
Unfortunately.
Thank goodness. I don't think I can handle the pain. I'm softy. Oh man, we're just a bunch of softies, okay? But you can't discriminate because of pregnancy. Either you think she's gonna get pregnant, she is pregnant, she was pregnant, you can't discriminate because of that. So we have the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, which is put in place to make sure that, women get treated fairly in the workplace and don't get discriminated because of their pregnancy or their potential to be pregnant, okay? They also have, what you would call the FMLA, right, Family Medical Leave Act. And so what that says, hey, women get a certain amount of time off once they are pregnant, right? Once they become pregnant or once they have the baby, they get a certain amount of time off. Now they have paternity leave also, right? Where the husband or the father of the child also gets a certain amount of time off, right? In order to help the mother, because if anybody is familiar with childbirth, right? Depending how the child is born, right? If it's C-section, the poor woman can't do anything. She's pretty much stuck in bed, right? Because they rip through the muscles in a C-section, right? If she does it vaginally or naturally, still, better, right? As far as the constitution of the body, but at the same time, pregnancy is hard on the body, and women need time, but you also need somebody to take care, help you out the first couple of weeks at least, with the beginning program to help out, right? It's almost like being sick. Get home, I don't want to get out of bed, right? More than likely, been 9 months carrying this thing around, it's out now, right?
Well, you take care of this.
Yeah, you can take care of the rest while I try to get my body back together and get my mind right, okay? And so you have the FMLA Act, okay? So you have both, maternal and paternal leave now, okay? Both man and woman, all right, when it comes to baby. That's the Equal Pay Act. And so the Equal Pay Act was put in place, back in 1963, right? And it says for every dollar or equal pay for equal work, okay? Which has never been the case, okay? I think we talked about this last week. Back in the 50s and 60s, usually women made 40 cents to 50 cents for every dollar that a man made, okay? Fast forward now, we're into 75 cents for every dollar a man makes, a woman makes 75 cents, all right? And it won't be till 2056 or something like that, or 2050, that we're gonna be on par, dollar for dollar, okay? Granted, nothing changes, right? But there's gonna be a lot of things going on. By the time 2050 comes, things will be very, very different, right? I think that there'll be a lot of people working less because of technology and AI, and people will have more leisure time, and people will be getting what is called a UBI, Universal Basic Income, because not everybody's going to be able to get into tech, right? Not everybody's interested in AI and machine learning. Not everybody can understand it, right? So we're gonna have to find something for them to do, right? We have autonomous vehicles that are driving everywhere, doing all the things, right? We don't need truck drivers anymore, right? Because the vehicles are driving themselves. We don't need taxi drivers anymore. They drive themselves. We have the gig economy, right?
The robots are gonna be able to like.
Right, the robots are gonna take everything from everything, right?
I don't think so. I think they can do like 99% of the job, but
Mhm.
still have to have like a human.
You do, you just don't need as many, right?
No, not as many. Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
You don't need as many, right? So technically, you might have a robot that's a teacher, okay? They don't need Dr. K's anymore.
No, we still want it.
Right? I mean, I still want it too, but you know, they may see it a different way. It's cheaper. You know, you buy a robot, the robot just sits up here and just talks and says whatever, and then you say something and the robot is a chat bot, right? And just, it can respond back to the chat GPT robot, right? It processes the question, it goes into the databases, and it gives you an answer that sounds like something Dr. K would give you, right? Or leans on some experience that it gotten from me. Maybe they say, okay, hey, we're gonna take your consciousness and all your experiences, and we're gonna stick it into this robot, right? And the robot will teach the class, but it's you, but this robot, so you don't have to show them, okay?
I believe that there are some policies that say, humans will not ever be replaced by robots,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Absolutely.
unless those policies change.
Yeah, and they're gonna change because businesses run the world, okay? Not governments, businesses.
Yeah.
Okay? Apple, Nokia, Netflix, Amazon. Those are the people that run the world, not the government, all right? Because the things that those companies have to offer are more desirable than what the government's giving us, all right? Those companies are the ones that give us internet. They give us Netflix. They give us the shows we like. They let us, you know, they give us the entertainment, the experiences that we're looking for, right? They give us the clothes we like to wear, right? And so those folks have more influence on my life in a day-to-day setting than the government does, right? What does the government do for me? Nothing, right? But in a different social class, you know, if you're getting welfare from the government, or you're getting a pension from the government like me, right? Because of my military service, I get a check from the government, right, every month, right? That's important to me, because that's my money, right? But aside from that, right? And so it's important that, you know, we look at overall, you know, who's really making the decisions, right? And so at some point, AI has already kind of injected itself into our society, into our lives, right? We've had AI for a long, long time, since the sixties, right? And unfortunately, people don't really recognize that we've been using AI for the longest time, right? Ever since the inception of the iPhone, AI's been around, okay? When you texting, that's AI, right? Natural language processing, NLP, and computer vision. When you're driving around your Tesla, that's just a big AI machine, right? All the cameras, all the segmentation, all the stuff that's going on with that car is all AI, right? Your computer processing is all AI, data management, database, right? Data inquiries, or big data, right? All that stuff is all AI, machine learning, really. Just at a very rudimentary level, but it's kind of the beginnings of it, right? Now in different levels, and we're doing all kind of crazy stuff, right? But at the same time, you're still gonna have to make sure that people that are in the workforce are getting paid the same, right? We have the same degree, we're doing the same job, we should get paid the same, right? Unless you come with something better than me, right? You have an extra degree or a certification, I understand, or more experience, I get it. But if we just were sitting next to each other in class and we both work for the same company, and you're making $15,000, $20,000 more than me, we got a problem. Why? Because I'm a woman, right? Because I'm a man, and the boss is a woman, or the company is a woman-owned organization, or because I'm African American and you're not. That's not how we roll, right? So equal pay specifically due to gender, right? Based off of gender, but at the same time, there's other factors that play a role in it. But when we talk about equal pay act, we're just trying to make sure that hey, women get treated the same as men in the workplace. Pay equity, okay, same thing, sort of, right? But now we're not talking about gender, we're more or less talking about people in general, okay? If you have the same level of knowledge, same skill set, same experience, right? We want to make sure that we pay fairly, okay? We want to make sure we pay fairly. One of the few organizations that we have a uniform pay scale across the board, no matter what your performance is, it's just based on your rank, right? It's the military, right? It doesn't matter. You could be both E4, you're E4, we're getting paid the same thing, right? Our performance will dictate whether or not we get promoted to the next level, right? Number of years we've been in, our experience, right? That plays a role in it, but it only plays a role to a certain degree. It's basically 85, 90% performance, right? But still within the performance evaluation system process, right? They can be biased. So you also have to be aware of that, of getting discriminated in that category, right? And saying, okay, well, yes, you're a better worker than this person, but because you are Hispanic, and I don't really like Hispanics, I'm gonna rate you lower than that person, even though I know you're better, right? And so that's gonna have an impact on your promotion down the line, right? Because your evaluation is gonna be high. They're gonna get a 99, you're gonna get a 90, 95, right? Still good, but it's not better than the best, right? You should be the best, but you're not. You're below, but it's not because you're worth, it's because of your characteristics, right? So we don't want that, you know? So we have to watch out for pay equity to make sure that we don't do that to people, okay? Like I said, base pay on the value of jobs and performance. That's really the crux of it, right? At the end of the day, we're trying to make sure that we're objective and we reward people and pay people based on their performance, right? Not anything else, right? Performance, experience, value you bring to the table. That's it. I don't care if you got one leg. I don't care if you're in a wheelchair, right? This goes to ADA, American Disability Association, or American Disability Act, right? Of not discriminating against someone because they have a disability, right? That's another thing that we, they were doing in the workplace for a while. Because somebody's in a wheelchair doesn't mean that they're not capable, right? We had a situation where one of our presidents was in a wheelchair for the longest time, and people didn't know, right? FDR, Franklin D. Delano Roosevelt, right? During World War II, he was the president, right? But he had a mild form of polio from childhood. He was in a wheelchair. He used to be in a wheelchair. A lot of people didn't realize that. He couldn't really stand up on his own. If you see him standing up, he had to get help, right? Sometimes he was sitting, he'd be sitting behind a big desk. You couldn't even tell that he was in a wheelchair. He had his cover, he had a big blanket that covered up his sides and stuff, but he couldn't really walk very well, right? But he's a great president, right? All the things that we have, Social Security, what was it? I forgot what it's called. What was it called? Anyway, he initiated a big social reform project, right? Social Security, making sure that we had protections under the law for in the workforce, right? Making sure civil rights were being protected and people were being considered in the personal welfare of the country, right? Coming out of World War II, we had sustained a lot of damage, right? Although we had won, it took a big toll out of the United States, but we came in and really changed a lot of things to make sure that people understood, like, hey, we're going to take care of the country, right? When you get older, we understand there's a system in place for you to, have money, but you have to contribute to it. You got to work, right? Your Social Security. That's when you see, or if you look at your pay stub, and you see all these people at FICA, right? Social Security, payroll taxes. Those are all things that he created under the there's a name for it, the whole process, the big reform or L comes in. Watch out be in the middle of the night and pop up in my head. I'm sleeping. All right. Okay. So next time we're gonna talk about is the glass ceiling, right? And so the glass ceiling basically is in the glass elevator too. So the glass ceiling is a concept about, it's strictly dealing with women, and what the glass ceiling is saying that women are gonna only get to such a position, they can only go so high before there's like this invisible barrier that they can't get past. Okay? And then once they hit that barrier, they're stuck. For instance, there was a point in time where there were no female CEOs. Okay? No major Fortune 500 company had a female CEO, right? Because what was happening was they get to maybe vice president or COO at the highest, and then boom, that's it. The establishment, the male establishment will then let them go any further, right? It's like a boys club. Like, hey, we're not gonna let any girls in here. No girl could be CEO, right? No woman could be priest, right? No woman could be world leaders, but that's the United States, right? We're one of the few countries, civilized countries, that hasn't had a female leader, right? Most countries that are civilized, not civilized, but world powers have had female leaders. We have never had a female leader, okay? So it's kind of like they hit the glass ceiling, right? They got to a point where, boom, the powers that be are like, nope, as far as you go, sit right here, okay? And it's an institutional, deliberate thing, right? Just cannot shatter that glass, right? So we shattered the glass as far as female CEOs and females moving up to run companies, and females and women having the opportunity to not only be leaders, but also still have a family, okay? That was always the thing that women had to choose between. You want to be a career woman or you want to be a family woman, okay? You want to have kids and raise a family, or you want to be in the business world and not have a family, okay? And they had to make a choice, right? Nowadays, you don't got to do that, right? Women have the choice of, you can do both, right? You can do like the men, be working, be a big shot at work, and come home, and then have a family, right? Have kids, husband, wife, whatever, and be happy, okay? It's possible, it's balance. We don't have that limitation anymore, okay? Glass elevators, right? We have that where women can only, move up so much in certain areas, in certain fields, okay? One of them, construction, is good for this, okay? When it came out of construction, you very rarely would find a female foreman in charge of a project. In the military, you wouldn't find women in certain combat-related jobs, okay? Artillery, infantry, right? And you're not in the United States anyway, because in other countries, different. Israeli, the special forces, a good percentage are women, right? The women I want to mess with, okay? I train with them. They're no joke, okay? No joke. I was like, I'm not messing with her. She's serious, right? So there's different opportunities that are opening up, but we did have the glass elevator, right? And the glass ceiling, which prohibited women and stopped them from progressing, right? Because of our own social norms, of our social constructs that were out there, okay? So shattering the ceiling is a big deal, right? When you see like, oh, the first woman to run for president, right? That was way back. That was who was the first woman to run for president? I know the first black woman to run for president. It's Shirley Chisholm. Shirley Chisholm. She was the first black woman to run for president. Okay, and she got a lot of publicity. Just it was something different, something new, and she had a lot of momentum. But we knew that wasn't happening, right? The closer we come to women being in charge is Hillary Clinton, right? Who we felt we should have won, but she didn't. She got beat out by Donald Trump, right? Because again, probably the glass ceiling. People were not ready for that. Same thing with a black president, right? It's not necessarily a glass ceiling, but it's just the whole point of, oh, we have to acknowledge that society is changing and we have something different. That's not the norm, right? Every other president before him has been white. Now people want something different, and he's black. And so he's breaking a barrier. He's shattering a norm, right? And we have to kind of figure it out, okay? So he did it for 8 years and did well, okay? Some ways to break the glass, right? Establish mentoring programs, provide opportunity for career rotation, um, allow for alternative work arrangements for employees. There's a couple different ways to break the glass, right? But we've kind of gotten through the glass, right? Women have shattered the glass, and the CEOs now, they're, the doctors, they're head surgeons, they're in charge, right? They've had the opportunity to charge. Now, is there room for improvement? Absolutely. There's still more room for them to do other things. Still, we don't have a female president yet, right? We just got our first female vice president, right? And Kamala Harris, who happens to be a minority, right? She's Indian and Jamaican mix, and she's a woman, right? And she's married to a white man, okay? First female vice president. So you see, things are moving along in the right direction, right? But we still have a lot of work to do, okay? But compare it to even 10, 15 years ago, there was no way somebody would even think, have a female vice president? Are you crazy? And she's black? And she's what? Indian and Jamaican? What? No, that's not happening, right? But it is happening, right? So it takes time, right? So there's a lot of different ways in which to do it. It really is about the mindset of the people, right? And the will of the people doesn't always get done, because when people get to Congress and get to the Senate, they start, relying more on their personal opinions and personal objectives about things, and not necessarily always worried about what the people want, okay? Because we elected these people, so they have to really pay attention to what we want, right? Sexual orientation, all right? We have laws now that passed that sexual orientation is a discriminatory protected class, right? So you can't discriminate because of that. So I don't care which one of the letters you want, LGBTQI, Z, him, her, their, they, whatever it is, right? You can't discriminate because of that. Okay, so sexual orientation is no longer something that is going to be looked at as a reason to disqualify someone. It shouldn't matter about who the person loves and who they want to engage with behind closed doors in their personal space. None of their business, right? What do you bring to the table? Are you adding value to the company, right? Are you an asset? That's all I care about. That's all you should care about. Should not care about anything else, because the politics, the religion, the race, the sexual orientation, the gender, irrelevant, right? To cognitive and intellect ability, right? Just because you're a woman doesn't make you smarter or dumber, right? Because you are African American doesn't make you smarter or dumber, okay? But this is the mindset that all these laws and acts, this is why they were made, because at one point or another, society here thought there were inferior races based on skin tone, right? For a while, you got to do with American football, right? Like the NFL. For the longest time, the NFL would not allow black quarterbacks because they thought black people weren't smart enough to be quarterbacks. So they would never have a black quarterback. It sounds stupid, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you look now, you're like, wait, 75% of the players are black,
Oh, yeah.
right? The best quarterbacks are black, okay? There's just certain things that they just could not really fathom and wrap their heads around, because they were basing it on very bad data, bad information, just in their own personal views that were just prejudicial and discriminatory in nature, okay? And so we have to look out for this in a sense of sexual orientation as well. Nepotism and romance at work, all right? Nepotism is when you are related to someone and you kind of give people preferential treatment because they're related to you, or you got your job because your daddy, somewhere in the company high up and they hired you, or you related to somebody within the company or the organization, okay? Nepotism, so you can have somebody that you're related to work for the company. You can't be part of the process, the hiring process, okay? they still have to go through the things, through,
Like to facilitate.
right. You can't be on the board that's hiring them, the interview board. You can't be part of the process at all. And you have to disclose that they're related to you. Okay, to tell them, hey, this is my uncle, my aunt, my mother, my father, my brother, my sister. They're applying for this job. They're great. I recommend them, but at the end of the day, it's just a referral, right? And then, yep, and I'm not gonna have any influence on it. I'm moving to the side, and this is the way it is, right? That's the way you work that, right? Nepotism is more or less like, hey, you're my brother, well, I'm hiring you. No questions asked. Forget all those 15 other people that have applications that are probably better than you anyway.
All right.
Right.
There are some companies, when you refer someone, they're gonna pay you.
Yeah, they're gonna pay you too, right?
Yes.
They'll pay you. Most companies pay you referral bonus, right?
Uh-huh.
But nepotism is different, right? Because if they pay you referral bonus, you're definitely gonna stay out the way, right? As a family member. But when it comes to nepotism, you basically are saying, hey, this is my brother. They don't have to interview. You don't gotta do nothing. Just hire them. Okay? Good on it. Do you have a degree? No, but that's okay. We'll maybe fine. Maybe fine. Yeah, maybe all right. All right? No, we don't want to do that. Okay? Because one, it looks bad for the company. Two, it's gonna create a lot of problems. Three, more likely, if you're doing that, whoever this person is, they're probably not qualified for the job, which means that you're probably gonna have to hire somebody else now or to do the job for real, right? And employees can sue. Okay? You pass me up so you can adopt your brother who's not qualified. I'm suing you. Okay? Discriminatory practice. You discriminate against me because of your brother, because of nepotism. Right? Don't want to do that. Oh, workplace romance. All right. Having relationships in the workplace is really up to the company. Some companies don't have a problem with it as long as you don't bring the problems to work. Some companies, they forbid it. It's in your contract. You will not date anybody within the company. Okay?
No dating.
No dating. If you start dating somebody within the company, you gotta leave. Okay? Normally, it's within ranks, between ranks, right? So it's a supervisor. You can't really date anybody down. Okay? You could probably date on the same level. If you can't date up, you can't date down. You can date on the same level. Right? So companies will allow that, right? And you, again, if you don't bring the drama to work, it's okay. And the best way to really do that is really not to date somebody that you work with directly. Just because we're in the same company doesn't mean we work together, right? I'm in operations, you're in marketing. You're in IT. Yeah, okay, whatever. All right? I'm doing something totally different. It's cool, right? And and most companies have a very flexible policy. Some companies, based on what they do, will be like, nope, no dating at all. If we find you, you're fired. Both of you are fired. Some companies have it where it's like, hey, you can't date below, you can't date above. You can date on the same level. So if you're a manager, you can date another manager, but you can't date a subordinate. Okay? It doesn't work that way. Especially subordinate that works for you. All right? Because now it looks like preferential treatment. That person has something hanging over your head. What happens when you guys go home? Right? And that person wants something. Like they're like, hey, I saw a job opening over in that department over there. You think you can talk to the manager for me and give me that job? Like, no, that's illegal. I can't talk to the manager for you. No, you can go talk to the manager. Right? If I talk to the manager, then that manager's taking me at my word as a manager, not as your boyfriend, not as your husband. Okay? If I go there and I talk to him as your boyfriend or husband and manager, no. Okay, it doesn't work that way. All right, sexual harassment. All right. This is where most companies get in trouble. Sexual harassment, hostile work environment, sexual assault. Okay. Now, sexual harassment is any unwelcome, verbal, nonverbal actions towards someone. Okay. If the person feels uncomfortable, if the person is like, hey, you're in my space, or for instance, a lot of times you'll have the boss will come up. I'm not gonna touch Marietta, but they'll come up and be like, hey, how you doing today? I'm rubbing your shoulder. I'm like, hey, how you doing today? I'm rubbing your leg. It's not, you never know now. It's like men, women, whatever, right? And it makes you uncomfortable. That's sexual harassment, right? Like, hey, boss, like, I appreciate it, we cool, but please don't do that, right? You're in my space, right? And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, because 9 times out of 10, they don't really mean anything by it. They just kind of like, that's just who they are. Sometimes they're touchy-feely, or they feel comfortable enough to where it's like, oh, we've been working here a year, whatever, we cool, right? If you don't tell them, then they're gonna think it's okay, all right? Now, you can have a relationship where you are cool like that, right? Where it's like, you coming back, good job, and because they don't have anything mean or there's no bad intent behind it, okay? But if it makes you uncomfortable, if it's something where it's like, hey, I told you not to do that, don't touch me, and they keep doing it, then that turns into sexual harassment, right? Now we start rolling into what we call quid pro quo, right? This for that, right? Oh, I know you really want that promotion. Like, if you, go out to dinner with me, it might happen, right? If you have sex with me, it might happen, right? Or if you want my friend, I could probably figure that out for you, right? Or you get no extra money or paycheck, you can put in no overtime, I'll do it, okay? No, okay, all illegal, right? And so many times, sexual harassment is what gets people in trouble, right? Specifically men, right? Most times it's men don't know how to act, don't know how to take no for an answer. They feel like they're the boss, and so they start to assume that they can do certain things because they feel like, hey, they have the advantage. And you do, it's a power dynamic, right? If I'm your boss and I'm starting to touch you or make you feel uncomfortable, how likely are you to say something? You're not gonna say anything, right? Because you don't lose your job, right? Or you don't want to get treated unfairly. All of a sudden, I'm getting the crappy jobs, right? I'm getting the jobs that don't really make any money, right? If I'm working on commission, all of a sudden I used to get the big commission jobs. Now I'm getting the little commission jobs, right? Or I'm getting the job that hey, that should go to the junior person. Well, no, I want you to do it now. Well, why? That's a junior person's job. I'm a senior person. I don't do that. I did that when I first got here. It's been 5 years. I don't do those things anymore. Oh, well, now you're gonna do it because they feel like they were coming on to you or they were trying to get you to do something and you didn't want to do it. You said something, and so now kind of like retaliation, right? They're trying to get back at you, right? All right, it's types of sexual harassment, like I said, quid pro quo, this for that, and then hostile work environment. When it starts to become an issue mentally, psychologically, it starts to, affect the person's work where they come in and they're like very anxious, they have a lot of stress, right? They just don't want to come to work, they don't like being in the space because of you and your behavior. And so you'll have the hostile work environment. And these are all things that you are going to report to your boss. And if your boss doesn't do anything, if your boss is the culprit, then you report them to HR. And if HR doesn't do anything, then you go to EOC. And if the EOC is not sufficient or adequate in their response, or you're not satisfied with it, then we go to mediation arbitration. And then we go into suing if that also does not make you feel good. All right, let's see. Talked about disability already. There's a lot of stuff on this PowerPoint, so. Okay, when it comes to ADA, right? American Disabilities Act, right? I was talking about if someone's in a wheelchair, somebody's, has a disability, right? And disability can be anything, right? So for instance, if you get headaches and the headaches cause you to have to lay down and you can't work and you can't look at the computer, you gotta stay away from the lights or something like that, and it's documented by the doctor, and you have a note that says stuff, that's considered disability, Okay? And so you don't want to discriminate against that, right? If you are going to hire someone, okay, and they have a disability, there's something we call reasonable accommodation. And what that means is that if I have someone with disability and I can accommodate them in some way that is reasonable to me as an organization, then I need to do so, right? So for instance, somebody's in a wheelchair. How does someone that's downstairs, right, in a wheelchair, get up here or go upstairs to a classroom upstairs? The elevator, right? So we have accommodations for that, okay? There's a ramp outside, they can wheel their chair up, on their own. But not every company or every building is built like that, right? So if the employee says, if I say I'm gonna hire you, right? And they say, well, I need accommodation. And it's like, well, I have a wheelchair. And so it's like, we don't have any elevators. There's only stairs. Well, I'm gonna need you to put an elevator in. That's unreasonable. Okay? So companies are obligated to accommodate if it doesn't cause them undue hardship. Okay? Undue hardship. And undue hardship usually means undue financial hardship. If it's gonna cost me $150,000 or some crazy amount of money to accommodate you, I don't have to do it. Okay? But if it's something that's minor, a low cost, in relation to the size of the company, then I'm required to do it, right? So for instance, I had a boss. He couldn't see very well, okay? So in order to accommodate him, he couldn't just use his computer on the desk. We had to buy him a big monitor. It was this big. And we stuck it on the wall for him. That's how blind he was, all right? We stuck it on the wall for him so he could work, so he could see, right, what he was doing. He couldn't use a little computer, he couldn't use a little screen. Too small, okay? We got authorization to do that because we accommodated his disability, okay? The TV cost us maybe $400. It was just a monitor, it wasn't, So it worked, boom, plugged it in, he's good to go, okay? That's reasonable, right? But if you are saying you need an elevator put in, or I need to knock down the wall somewhere or do some crazy stuff, like, no, okay? I don't have to do that, right? Because that's undue hardship for me, okay? It's gonna cost you too much time, too much stuff, right? There's a reason why, you have to have so much space between the aisles here, because a wheelchair should be able to come back and forth here, should be able to walk out the door. That's why the door is a certain size, right? So people can come in and out, because wheelchairs are pretty standard for the most part, right? They have to be able to come in and out, right? When you go to the bathroom, sometimes they have a special handicap, a stall, right? That's accommodation, right? So that kind of thing, right? And then we have GINA, okay? So GINA, right here, Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act, basically is saying, look, when you go get a job, and it's probably changed by now, or changed, it has changed. Back in the day, when we used to get a job, we were required to get a physical. Right? And within this physical, they would drug test you. They would also take blood, right? And then when they did the physical, we just determined that you were healthy, that you were good to go. Okay. What was happening is that the companies would contract the doctors or the facility to do the physical, and then they would call the facility and say, hey, we're about to hire this person. What's wrong with them? Cancer. Okay. You come back, oh, we decided we're gonna go a different direction. We're not gonna hire anybody for this job, but we appreciate you coming in. Like, what? What happened? Yeah, we just thought about it, we didn't want anybody, right? They're discriminating against you because you have cancer. Because, guess what? You got cancer or you have not necessarily, you don't have it full blown, but maybe you have the markers for it. Maybe you have, it's hereditary, right? Your father had prostate cancer. Usually that stuff is hereditary. So you have the markers, you have the kind of the signs that you're probably gonna develop cancer, right? And then using that as criteria on whether to hire or not hire you, because if they hire you and there's a propensity for you to develop cancer, guess what that means for them?
It means that they're gonna pay you when you get the.
They gotta pay your health insurance,
On your health insurance.
right?
Mhm.
I don't wanna pay your health insurance bills for cancer. No, we don't wanna do that.
And it's only a possibility.
Yeah.
It's a predisposition factor, doesn't mean that you're gonna get the cancer.
Right, and this is where Gina came in, right? Genetic Information Discrimination Act, saying you cannot discriminate against people because of their physical or their potential.
Yes.
Okay, and you cannot ask for that information anymore. Okay, HIPAA. All right, you can't go and ask that company. You still can hire them, right, to do the examination, but you can't call them and say, hey, what's going on with that person? All right, no, can't do that. All right, so that's illegal. That's where that's on the Gina.
Unless there is an issue that would harm or affect the other employees,
Right,
like
exactly.
addiction also.
Yeah, something like that, right? But if it's something like that, then they're gonna know, right? You're sick in some contagious way. Hopefully, you're not coming to work
Mhm.
and get people sick, right? Even if you have HIV, right? You can't pass that to anyone unless you have physical contact with them. So you're still okay, right? But if I call the health provider and say, hey, what's wrong? They say, oh, you got HIV. Oh, Jesus. Really? Okay. All right. HIV is not AIDS. HIV is just, you have the virus,
Yes.
but you don't have AIDS.
No.
All right. So, on that, the difference makes a big difference. All right. And so companies can't do that anymore. We got age discrimination, right? 40 and older, right? People getting discriminated against, you can't do that. Okay? There's an act for that. You can't discriminate against someone because they're older. All right. So this was happening a lot in the 80s where people would lose their job or be looking for a job and then they go and then they be qualified, but because they were older, they wouldn't get hired. Because why would I not hire an older person as a company?
Are hard to, it's hard to teach them new things.
Yeah,
Also, they can lie
that's hard to teach them new things. They can lie. What else?
or die.
Oh, die? Yeah, they can definitely die. Yeah, you're right about that. They can die. All right. But think about it from the organizational standpoint. All right. And when you think about organizations, always think about money. Money is. Always think
Like,
about
you have
money.
to
Money is always the
pay
bottom line.
retirement.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing. Yeah. But along those lines, right? You have to pay retirement when they retire, right? But you have to probably pay them more because they probably have a certain amount of experience, right? First thing. Secondly, you can probably hire someone cheaper to do the job. You just have to teach them, right? I could probably hire someone straight out of college, teach them, and I have to pay them. I could pay them, $30, $40, $50,000 less than I'm gonna have to pay you, right? The other thing is that as they get older, right, more likely to have some issues, right? You get older, those things start popping up. Again, back to insurance, right? Health coverage. Now I have to take care of this person. All of a sudden, now this person has arthritis. This person's back is out. They go on a doctor's appointment every week to have something, So getting away from older folks was seen as a cost benefit, right? Not to mention that as things start to innovate, older people are less likely to join a change to accommodate innovation, right? So companies weren't hired, but you don't want to do that, right? And the thing is, a lot of people, let me talk about this. Yeah, as people, nowadays people are living longer, right? And 50 not old anymore, okay? So it makes sense that, hey, you don't want to disqualify somebody because they're older. It doesn't make any sense, okay? And then we got immigration, right? We kind of talked about religion already, so I kind of skipped that real quick. Immigration, really, as an employee, you want to make sure that people are eligible to work in the United States. You guys, right, here at school, there's certain, you can work, but only to a certain capacity, I'm assuming, right? Unless you're a citizen, right? You can only work a certain capacity because you have an F1 visa or something to that extent, right? So you can work in the capacity of, hey, if there's an internship, I think, if there's like a practicum or something like that, right?
Campus or part-time.
Of campus or part-time, yeah, you can do that, right? But you can't go work full-fledged for a company unless they sponsor you, right? They have to sponsor you.
And no one's gonna.
Yeah, no one's gonna sponsor you guys. That's it, that's it.
Money.
It costs money, yeah, sponsorship costs money, right?
I'm free
Right.
labor.
So they have to make sure that you are eligible to work, okay? That's another HR function. So we don't want to discriminate because of that. I'm gonna skip the
Vietnam.
What's that?
I've seen Vietnam.
Vietnam?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, Vietnam.
Yeah, so, well, this is the last one we'll cover, so, make sure you read the rest of the slides, there's about 10 more slides or so.
Okay.
But yeah, when the Vietnam War was a little different than any other war that we've been in, okay? In the sense that, American society did not want to be involved in the Vietnam War. And when we got to the Vietnam War, it was not a very, favorable war, right? People were just like, why are we there? You know, we don't want to be part of this war, we need to leave, and da 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 da. And so when the military people came back from Vietnam, they got treated really bad. Okay? No one would hire them. They call them baby killers. It was just very, very bad for the military after Vietnam War.
And America lost, right?
America technically, yeah,
They lost
we
the war.
technically lost Vietnam. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, they won't say that, but technically, yeah, we lost, right? And so when they came back, they just got treated really bad, really poorly. The way that they treat the military now is not the way they got treated in Vietnam, right? They treated World War II, Korean War, Gulf War. You come back, you're a hero. Vietnam War wasn't anything like that. Those guys came back missing arms, legs, you know, just in wheelchairs, addicted to heroin and morphine. You know, because that was a big drug back in that era, and they all did it. A lot of them did it, right? So they come back as addicts, the drug addicts. They would get stuck in these institutions and no jobs, nobody would hire them, right? And so they had to do something to help them get on their feet, right? They had to put laws in place and say, look, these guys need a chance. And so if you don't want to give it to them, we're gonna make you hire them, okay? We're gonna make them have jobs, right? And so they have, that, and they have, voc rehab, which is, basically vocational rehabilitation. And all it is, voc rehab is just a program for vets, for them to get into, certain programs to learn how to do vocational stuff or blue collar stuff, like, you know, maybe HVAC, or be, you know, work with, you know, be a carpenter, you know, stuff, mechanic, stuff like that, right? Things that you don't necessarily need a degree, you really just need experience, you need to know how to do them, right? Apprenticeships and stuff like that. All right? All right, what we got?
That's my turn.
That's it? I'm done? All right, any questions? No questions?
All of us are staying here. They're
Yeah.
gonna discriminate us because of our race.
So make sure you guys, finish up the PowerPoint. Yeah, appearance and weight discrimination, that's something else, right? That's in the workplace, right? People, again, get discriminated because of their weight, because of their hair, because of hair color, because of the clothes they wear,
Hair
because,
color, can be.
Haircut.
Like if I dye my
That's
hair
funny, right?
yeah,
and the worker wants to fire me, this is discrimination.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why would you dye it?
Really?
mhm.
This is not your natural hair color.
If it's not necessarily if it's not your natural hair color, if it's a color that is not necessarily traditional in nature,
Mhm,
or is not considered normal.
mhm.
But normal is very subjective, right? What's normal to you is not necessarily normal to me, right? So, wearing a costume on Halloween, that's normal for a lot of people. For me, it's not normal, right? I don't think it's anything bad. I just don't want to wear a costume, unless I'm going to a party or something, or whatever, I wear a costume. But you know what I'm saying? And then
Mhm.
I dress up, once in a while, but at the same
I
time,
think as long as you're not like hurting someone
Right.
else,
right?
you have the
Who
right
cares, right?
to, yeah.
But that's not how it was, right? It wasn't like that before. So
Yeah.
people's appearance would play a huge role into whether or not, people have not gotten jobs where they get fired because they're ugly. This person's not good looking enough. We don't need them.
That's why I think there shouldn't be like in the curriculum,
Mhm.
like a picture of yourself.
Yeah.
People shouldn't look how you look
Right.
like your qualification and stuff.
Right, they should just care about your qualifications.
The curriculum,
Curriculum
yeah,
of what?
the resume, like apply for a job and
Okay,
some people
And you don't
say,
have
like,
to.
you have to have a
Okay.
picture.
No, you don't have to.
You don't have.
Yeah, you don't have to, and you shouldn't, that no one should tell you have to have a picture. It's nice to have one, because some people like to put a face, and they could
Mhm.
give you, to personalize it, to make you not be a number, but some people still use it as a way to discriminate against, oh, they're black, oh, they're white, oh, they're Hispanic, oh, they're Middle Eastern, oh, they're,
Or they don't look
they're
like,
Hispanic. They don't look like
pretty
you,
enough
yeah, they're not
to
pretty
be,
enough, they're too big, they're too skinny, they're too
Yeah.
this, they're too that, like, no, it has nothing to do with it, right? So, you gotta watch out for that too. All right, no questions. Make sure you get your Ellie in, okay? And the quiz. And, for everybody on Zoom or that's online, make sure you get your LE in. LEs are due on Wednesdays, 11:59 PM, regardless if you're online or hybrid or whatever that your classification, okay? So everybody's LEs are due same time, Wednesday at midnight, all right? And then I think that's it, right? All right, see you guys next week. All right, Zoom, I'll see you next week.
Zoomers.
Zoomers.
Baby zoomers.
Right, Zoom. Night, Zoom.
All right, Professor. Good night.
All right, good night.
Where you going?